Colin Cowherd has historically extended grace to college basketball coaches entangled in DUI scandals, defending their character, vouching for second chances, and insisting termination was excessive. Yet when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, who was cited for speeding 40 miles over the limit, Cowherd abruptly shifted gears. On his show, he dismissed Sanders entirely, declaring he was out and could no longer support him, one speeding ticket, and Cowherd withdrew his allegiance. Despite having previously praised Sanders' poise and potential, Shannon Sharpe, never one to let inconsistency go unchecked, took aim at commentators who disguised chronic skepticism as insight. He called out the double standard, how some analysts are eager to label an athlete a bust after one misstep, yet slow to acknowledge greatness unless it's accompanied by visible hardship. Sharpe's rebuttal was calm, data-driven, and deliberate. He cited film, numbers, and contexts. And when the truth was undeniable, many critics began quietly editing their social media posts, suddenly reinventing themselves as longtime supporters of Shedeur Sanders. But Sharpe demanded accountability. He named names, dates, quotes, and insisted that the same voices who spent months questioning Sanders' readiness must publicly own their errors. Because the reality is this: Shedeur is a top-tier playmaker, a generational talent. In one fourth-quarter shootout, he led a 45-42 comeback while setting a school record with 510 passing yards. That's not potential, that's production. And the question about whether his performance will translate to the NFL? That question is rapidly answering itself. Those who once painted Sanders as immature or unprepared are now fumbling to adjust their narratives without admitting they were wrong. Instead of celebrating his film sessions, his leadership, and his flawless stat lines, they fixate on speeding tickets. All while Sanders remains focused, quietly posting practice clips and game tape, never engaging in the media circus. Sharpe, on the other hand, keeps the receipts. Every clip, every quote, every doubt. And as Sanders continues to silence the critics with precision and professionalism, Sharpe lets the contrast speak for itself. The dissonance between perception and performance is deafening. Suddenly, the same pundits who dismissed Sanders now describe him as underrated, releasing detailed breakdowns of his mechanics and praising his game management. What changed? Not Shedeur, just the results. And when results speak loud enough, even the loudest doubters go quiet. But Sharpe wasn't just defending one quarterback. He was confronting a toxic culture of narrative-driven analysis, where confidence is mischaracterized as arrogance and athletes are judged more for optics than output. He reminded audiences that success doesn't need validation from talking heads. Real talent, he said, will always rise, no matter how the media tries to suppress it. Meanwhile, within Brown's training camp, insiders like Zach Jackson are reporting what's becoming hard to ignore. Sanders looks outstanding, even better than expected. While some say Dillon Gabriel doesn't even project as an NFL-caliber quarterback, somehow he's getting first-team reps over Sanders. That discrepancy is not lost on fans or former players. Critics now argue that supporting Sanders somehow undermines the traditional standard of the game. Yet many of those same critics once dismissed him as simply a product of Deion Sanders' spotlight. Now that Shedeur is producing numbers that can't be denied, they're scrambling for excuses that preserve their original takes. Sharpe again holds them accountable, playing their old commentary side by side with Sanders' 400-yard games, not to humiliate but to reveal. He didn't force retractions, he just showed the facts. Then there's the character debate. Colin Cowherd's about-face disavowing Sanders for speeding tickets felt like a stretch, especially coming from someone who believes even serial mistakes in college sports deserve grace. Is one or even two traffic violations really enough to redefine an entire career trajectory? Or is this about something deeper? Discomfort with an athlete who exudes confidence, excellence, and doesn't ask for permission to be great. Supporters argue the criticism is disproportionate, Sanders wasn't reckless, no one was harmed, and in a league that's tolerated far graver legal issues, these citations feel weaponized. Former Browns coaches have entered the discussion, publicly backing Sanders and sparking media firestorms. Their defense, while possibly opportunistic, rings true. 2 speeding tickets shouldn't erase a resume filled with academic accolades, community service, and elite quarterback play. Media outlets, however, ran wild. Highlight reels were replaced with courtroom speculation. TV graphics shouted red flags. Analysts questioned whether the infractions might tank his draft stock. But Sanders' tape tells a different story. First-round talent. field general presence, quiet killer instinct. Still, the conversation expanded, becoming less about speed limits and more about identity, about who gets grace and who doesn't, about how certain players can falter without media hysteria while others are villainized for minor missteps. Ultimately, Sharp argues, this is about more than Shedeur Sanders. It's about resetting the standard. Either we allow room for growth, or we admit that some voices in sports media are more interested in gatekeeping than insight. Because the next time Shedeur Sanders steps into the spotlight, whether it's behind center or behind the wheel, the noise will return. But this time, the scoreboard will be louder than any studio opinion. Colin Cowherd now characterizes Shedeur Sanders' 2 speeding citations as a reflection of flawed judgment, despite having previously defended quarterbacks with significantly more troubling off-field histories. His abrupt reversal has raised questions about the consistency of his standards and exposed how swiftly media narratives can be reshaped when minor incidents receive disproportionate scrutiny. While Cowherd advocated moving on from Sanders, former Browns head coach Eric Mangini offered a more balanced perspective. Known for a mixed coaching tenure, Mangini refrained from sensationalizing the traffic violations. Instead, he emphasized context, highlighting the reality of being a 21-year-old quarterback under constant public surveillance. He acknowledged the infractions as errors, but cautioned against allowing them to define Sanders' character or trajectory. He reminded audiences that in today's media ecosystem, quarterbacks are not just athletes, they are brands, leaders, and public figures expected to navigate immense scrutiny. Mangini called for a holistic evaluation, one that factors in growth, accountability, and on-field excellence, not just isolated mistakes. As training camp approaches, the quarterback competition intensifies. Joe Flacco is being eased in due to age, while Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Sanders compete to prove their readiness. This isn't just a rebuild, this is a reimagining. But here's where things get truly compelling, because all that offensive firepower could amount to absolutely nothing. The offensive line can't hold its ground. That's the unspoken crisis, the elephant in the locker room. And analyst Trevor Sikkema isn't mincing words. Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, both on the wrong side of 30 and both showing clear regression in their PFF grades. Ethan Powek, the man in the middle, surrendered more pressures than he has in any season since his rookie year. Jack Conklin is playing for a new contract. And DeJuan Jones, the one they're hinging their right tackle hopes on, posted a sub-50 PFF grade last season. Let that sink in. This revamped offense, loaded with fresh weapons and theoretical upgrades, is still being shielded by a front 5 that gave up 66 sacks last year. That's not just a warning sign, that's a screaming alarm. If this line disintegrates, everything collapses. The excitement around Judkins, Fannin, or the rookie quarterback, irrelevant. The offensive line will be either the launch pad for a new Browns era or the anchor that pulls it all back into darkness. And that takes us to the architect behind it all, General Manager Andrew Berry. This isn't hyperbole. His future in Cleveland rides on this draft class. The 2025 NFL Draft wasn't just another opportunity, it was a crucial, career-defining moment. And Berry, his resume is checkered. While Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was his crown jewel, he's now out for the 2025 season with a significant neck injury. That puts the spotlight firmly on a new set of names. Quinshon Judkins, Mason Graham, and one of the rookie quarterbacks. They must hit. Berry passed on generational talent Travis Hunter at no 2, instead gambling on Graham at no 5. Bold, yes. Risky, without question, but it underscores how desperately Berry is hunting for cornerstone players. Mason Graham has to dominate in the trenches. Judkins must energize the offense. And one of those quarterbacks, he needs to emerge as the guy. Let's not forget Harold Fannin Jr., a record-setting tight end who must now evolve into a consistent, explosive presence in a receiving core that's thin on experience and short on spark. So here we are, perched on the edge of what could be a franchise-defining season for the Cleveland Browns, a roster reinfused with youth, a fan base fueled by hope, a front office on the clock. This is no longer about raw talent, it's about execution, durability, leadership, and grit. And somehow, it might all hinge on the hunger and heart of a 21-year-old running back, Quinshon Judkins. the unlikeliest hero Cleveland never knew it needed. So what say you, Browns Nation? Is Judkins the future of this offense? Do you believe in Andrew Berry's vision, or are we staring down the barrel of yet another rebuild in disguise? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button if you believe this team is building something real, and don't forget to subscribe for all the twists, turns, and touchdowns of this unfolding Browns saga. Because here's the truth, 2025 isn't just another season, it's the climax of a storyline that's been building for years. Every draft pick, every trade, every quarterback shuffle, it all comes to a head now. And no one feels that pressure more than Andrew Berry after the Deshaun Watson blockbuster. A deal that some insiders are already whispering could go down as one of the worst trades in league history. Berry is on the brink. This isn't about building a better team anymore. It's about saving his job, about salvaging the future. Let's talk quarterbacks. Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, two high-profile rookies with polar opposite styles, both carrying immense potential, but also immense risk. Let's be honest, rookie QBs rarely thrive behind shaky protection and identity crises. If either one flashes even a hint of long-term promise this season, that's a massive win. But if they both struggle, that #2 overall pick in 2026 may be the final lifeline Berry has to get the quarterback situation right. And don't think ownership isn't watching. Jimmy Haslam made it clear at the league meetings back in March. This isn't about improvement. It's about results. It's about survival. The perception around Andrew Berry has evolved from young visionary to a general manager walking a tightrope with the abyss below. With 7 selections in this year's draft, he needs 3 minimum to become foundational players. So zoom in, focus, Quinshon Judkins. Mason Graham, Dillon Gabriel, Harold Fawnin Jr., Carson Schwezinger, Dylan Sampson, Shedeur Sanders. These aren't just names. They're either the bricks of a new dynasty or the final remnants of another shattered plan. Maybe that's why this offseason feels different. Not noisy, not flashy, but quiet, determinate. Like a franchise that understands the stakes and is preparing not with noise, but with intent. So Browns fans, it's your turn. Do you trust this rookie class? Can Judkins rise? Can Berry redeem himself and finally chart a new course for Cleveland? Let us know in the comments. Hit that like button if you feel this team has something real brewing. And subscribe, because this isn't just a rebuild. This might be the reckoning. Go Browns. But what if I told you that deep inside Berea, behind the media smiles, the polished pressers, and the preseason optimism, the fate of the Cleveland Browns isn't being determined by touchdowns or training camp performance, but by egos, underlying tensions, and franchise-altering decisions that could fracture the locker room before a single down is played? What if the face of the franchise has quietly disappeared? The team's biggest star is hanging by a thread, and the most polarizing quarterback on the roster is the one fans are begging to never take the field. This isn't your typical offseason. This is a storm, silent, brewing, ready to erupt. And at the center of it all, a rookie feeling the weight of the world, a veteran being ignored, and a front office orchestrating moves that could shape the next decade of Browns football, for better or worse. You're not going to believe how deep this story goes, but before we go any further, smash that like button, but only if you've been repping brown and orange for 17 plus years. It means everything to see generations of loyal fans ride this roller coaster together. If you're one of them, drop this in the comments. Go Browns, my heart bleeds brown and orange. All right, buckle up. As we barrel into the 2025 season, the Cleveland Browns are facing a quarterback conundrum that's not just splitting the locker room, it's splitting the fan base, and the analysts too. Observers note that while Gabriel and Pickett received more first-team reps early, Sanders has emerged as the breakout talent, drawing national attention and a place on ESPN's first-team watch list. Online reactions have been divisive. Critics claim Sanders' recognition is tied more to his lineage than his performance. Supporters, however, point to his composure, leadership, and growth, asserting he's earned his spotlight. Debate now transcends stats. It's about image, marketability, and how personal branding intersects with talent evaluation. Sanders' rise has sidelined other major storylines in college football. While skeptics cite inconsistency or turnovers, supporters counter with clips showcasing his anticipation, arm strength, and ability to read coverages. Critics label his recognition as premature. Believers see a future NFL star being forged in real time. Once in Brown's camp, Sanders injected undeniable electricity. Reports suggest he instantly elevated the tempo. Veteran defenders looked stunned. He handled progressions like a seasoned pro, manipulated leverage with shoulder fakes, and delivered accurate strikes with impeccable timing. Defensive coordinators were reportedly scrambling as Sanders adjusted protections, diagnosed coverages post-snap, and consistently punished mismatches. Technically, Sanders displayed a refined ability to remain balanced in the pocket, reset his base without wasted motion, and hit receivers in stride. He exploited soft zones, shredded press coverage with pre-snap adjustments, and threw with anticipation that belied his experience. His mastery forced Cleveland's defensive staff to alter schemes mid-session, rotating safeties, disguising blitzes, and even simulating pressures, none of which disrupted his rhythm. By the session's end, it was evident Sanders wasn't just a participant, he was commanding the field. From manipulating cadence to freeze blitzes to perfectly placed back shoulder throws, he showcased a level of control rare in rookies. His emergence has elevated expectations and ignited debate across the NFL landscape. In a sport where first impressions are often exaggerated, Shedeur Sanders has offered something better: undeniable production, and whether critics choose to acknowledge it or not, the film doesn't lie. Thank you guys. See you next video.